Welcome to No More Risk. Today I'd like to talk to you about dry sprinkler systems and specifically the dry pipe valve. Whenever we have unheated areas subject to freezing, we can't use a wet system. And the most common alternative then becomes the dry system. The dry pipe valve is where the air and the water meet. We have air from here up, water from here down. Now, the operating concept is reasonably simple. We have what we call differential pressure. That means less air pressure on the top will hold back more water pressure on the bottom. And the reason is that the air has a larger area to act on. If it was in service, we would see an air pressure of about 40 psi and a water pressure of about 120 psi. What happens when there's a fire is it opens sprinklers on the piping and it begins to lose air. And as it loses air and the pressure drops, it reaches a point where it can no longer hold the water back. And that ratio is about 5.5 to 1 from the water pressure to the air pressure. And at that point, when it can no longer hold it back, the water pressure forces the clapper to the open position. And now the water, with the full water pressure behind it, is headed to the fire area. At the same time, there's a groove in here between the two seats that clapper sealed. It's called an intermediate chamber. And the water goes in the intermediate chamber. It actually comes out of the back of the valve, and it goes through a pipe up to this pressure switch. This is our water flow alarm. As soon as it senses water pressure, we're going to get our alarm. Now, the other stuff that needs to be on a valve so that it does everything we need to operate the way I described it, we need an air supply because we need to maintain that air pressure. We need to have an ability to put some water on top of the clapper on many of these valves, and it's called priming water. This is the priming cup. We would actually use this once it's closed up to pour water to this level. There's another valve back here that we can use to make sure the priming water is at the correct level. We obviously need to have a drain so we can drain the system down. There's also an air pressure switch. In the event there was an air leak on the system, we'd want to know about it before this thing tripped. It may or may not have something called an accelerator. What it does is it takes some of the stored energy of that air in the piping when it first senses the pressure loss, and it redirects it into the intermediate chamber to force the clapper open faster than it otherwise would. And then that gets the water on the way to the fire more quickly. So that's the key principles behind a dry system. This lower air pressure holding back higher water pressure until you lose the air, clapper opens, water goes to the fire, alarm rings. The key thing is this needs some tender loving care to make sure it's going to do the job in a fire. We'll tackle that in another No More Risk video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on No More Risk.